Brightburn is a 2019 film directed by David Yarovesky and stars Elizabeth Banks, David Denman, and Jackson A. Dunn. It was also written by Brian and Mark Gunn, who are brother and cousin, if I remember correctly, if I said that right, of James Gunn, who's one of the many producers of this film, which I think was a pretty smart move because I remember a lot of confusion with people calling this a James Gunn movie around the time that it came out. And it did gross $33 million off a $6 million budget, although I think I saw somewhere where it said 6 to 12, but still a pretty decent profit. And I do feel like James Gunn's name being in there helped that. And the plot follows a couple in Brightburn, Kansas, who find a baby inside a crashed spaceship after seeing an explosion in the woods near their house. So yeah, you probably already figured it out. It's basically the Superman story. You know, Superman were evil, and although I already knew this, you know, going in, I kind of thought, I was kind of surprised how quick you learn all this stuff in the movie itself. It's got some super tight storytelling in the first act, which I suppose could be seen as rushed. But this is also a 90-minute movie, so they really didn't want to waste a lot of time, I think, on all kinds of crazy origin story stuff that, a traditional comic book movie might have done. So I did kind of appreciate how the Gunn boys did not intend on dragging anything out. A little photo, montage kind of near the beginning, takes care of Brandon's infant years pretty much, and we pretty much just skip to him being 12 years old. At the very beginning, you see Tori and Kyle. They're just sitting at home. You see books about fertility on their bookshelf. Within like 10 seconds that, they'd been trying to have a baby, but with no luck. So when they found Brandon in the woods, it seemed like the greatest gift, anyone could have given them, And he's a super smart kid. He excels in school, but he's also shy and awkward. And some of the school kids do bully him. But one day, of course, he finds out that he has superpowers. He decides that he's not only special, but superior to other people. That becomes his mindset really quick, and he voices that mindset. He wastes zero time in testing out these new abilities and pretty much exacting his revenge on anyone who has wronged him. One day his mom tells him his true origin, or at least what little of it that they know. And he turns on his parents pretty quick, after learning this stuff. And you do feel sorry for Brandon for, like, the first 5 minutes of this movie, probably. Maybe 10 minutes. But he turns into a little fucker real quick. I'll tell you that much. He's completely void of empathy. He's sadistic. And he's totally arrogant. I feel weird saying this about a kid, but, they do a pretty good job at making Brandon look like a little asshole. So, yeah, in case you haven't figured it out yet, or if you haven't seen this movie, he's definitely supposed to be the villain here, and he definitely fills that role, in my opinion. He's no longer afraid of anyone, so he attacks this girl who had he'd already been kind of stalking by completely crushing her hand. It is brutal seeing like a 12-year-old girl's hand just like, it's gnarly. It's gnarly. It looks like it hurts so bad. Oh yeah, and I guess I forgot to mention he's also pretty much a creep. He's been stalking this girl. It basically, starts out as a superhero movie. It totally has that feel to it, but it turns into, honestly, in my opinion, it turns into a slasher, which was more than fine by me. So after a few murders around town, Kyle suspects that Brandon was involved. Tori is defensive of him at first, but I think that in the back of her mind, she was a little suspicious too. But she's got that mom, protectiveness going on, and I think a lot of us can not only respect that, but, understand it. So I actually had a lot of fun with this movie. I don't know what Brandon's ultimate motives were, and I guess I don't really care because I just watched it as a slasher anyways. The concept is really fun, I thought, even if the boys kind of already did it with, the whole evil superhero thing. But this is even more blatantly based on Superman. It even takes place in Kansas, which I thought was kind of cool. I'd also add maybe some Omen comparisons to Damien. I think, Brandon's definitely got a Damien thing going on. So there's this scene early on where Brandon is wearing a blue shirt, back to the Superman comparisons, while he's sleeping. And when he gets out of bed, he had like this red blanket that gets stuck in his collar as he walks away. And he looks like Superman for a split second. So I do like those little Superman Easter eggs. And And Brandon actually creates his own superhero costume, which doesn't look like Superman at all, which I thought, suited the movie for the most part, because otherwise he would just be a kid flying around. It would probably look kind of stupid. I also liked how it looks vaguely, his costume anyways, looks vaguely like something a 12-year-old could or would make. Now back to me calling this a slasher, because it gets fairly, like, it starts to kind of go fairly hard, really. There's a scene like where Brandon flips a guy's truck, causing like, flips it upside down, I guess you could say, causing hit the guy's face to go into the steering wheel, into his mouth, I guess you could say, and it almost just like breaks his head in half, but he's still alive with his like jaw hanging down. Yeah, it was pretty awesome, actually. And I keep finding myself wanting to praise the writing here, because it's like it appeals to me. But I really just think that it's a cool gimmick, which I'm fine with. But some might find that a little maybe low hanging fruit. I guess what I'm trying to get at is he really just had a story that kind of wrote itself. It is a little bit edgier than I expected, so I'll definitely give it that. Because there's some stuff here that I didn't really see coming, and I really liked, especially the ending. The ending kind of came a little bit out of left field. Didn't really expect it. It was edgy. Thought it was pretty cool. Which, by the way, sets up at least I thought, set up in a very easy sequel. And with a bigger budget, could have been a pretty crazy movie when you think about it. So I'm giving Brightburn a 6 out of 10. I had a real good time with it. It's a superhero movie for horror fans, really. Although it is, technically a story that anyone could have written. Pretty much, like I said, these things pretty much write themselves at the end of the day. The acting was good, actually. Everyone pulls their weight, I thought. I've always liked Elizabeth Banks. And to me, she's consistently reliable and has been throughout the decades, the last couple decades anyways. Her and David Denman are a believable couple, which is always important to me. David is, he's a good actor too, even though I was distracted by how much he looked to me like Bert Kreischer, who I absolutely hate. But overrated, unfunny comedians is a topic for another day. Cheers, guys, and I'll see you at the multiplex. Subscribe right now, please.